Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, friends. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel. Great to have you here. Hello, Mavericks and new viewers from all over the world. So much to share with you tonight. New tariffs announced by Trump. Another day, another round of tariffs. Ukraine seeing U.S. aid restored. On again, off again support is on again. We'll tell you why and how. We also have a MAGA meltdown underway because of the Jeffrey Epstein 60-second video scandal. Yesterday, I said, using the phrasing from the U.S. government, which had released this memo, essentially, or a release, talking about how the Epstein, they were referring specifically to the security footage from the prison where Epstein is said to have killed himself. They said it was raw. So I said, this is raw, unedited footage. And they released an enhanced version, which I said had been edited, and indeed it had been. But now we're hearing that there may be missing footage from that video clip. There is an explanation. A lot of people just aren't buying it. A lot of people just aren't buying a lot of what is coming from the Trump administration. And we'll tell you who it is that they are trying to throw under the bus as a result. All that and more coming up right here on the Maverick News Channel, right after.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, yeah, dramatic footage being released tonight by the Houthis in Yemen, showing how they sank a ship. We're going to get into that as well. But first up tonight, big news on the Canadian side, where we're seeing the Royal Canadian Mounted Police charging 4 men, including 2 active members of the Canadian Armed Forces, in connection with an alleged plot to forcibly seize land near Quebec City. The RCMP announced today that Marc Aurel Chabot, 24, Simon Angaters Audet, 24, and Raphael Lagace, 25 years old, all from the Quebec City area, face charges of facilitating terrorist activity. The 4th suspect, Matthew Forbes, 33 years old, of Pont Rouge, is charged with possessing firearms, prohibited devices, and explosives. The group allegedly planned to create an anti-government militia driven by ideologically motivated violent extremism. That's a phrase that police, RCMP, CSIS in Canada use. to describe the most serious kinds of domestic terrorists, essentially. We have pictures released by RCMP of some of the weapons and military equipment that had been stolen or acquired in some way. Some speculation that some of these weapons may have been stolen from Canadian military bases somehow. And of course, we have Canadian military personnel involved in this, facing charges. Authorities say the suspects engaged in military style training. Indeed, we have images of them doing so right here. This is the image that was released by police today. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people here, 4 charged so far. It's 7 involved in what police are saying. This, I guess, is a training exercise they were involved in or allegedly involved in. The authorities are saying that they were training for ambush, survival, and navigation across Quebec and Ontario between June of 2021 and January of 2024. They also conducted a scouting operation to identify land for their so-called new society. In January of last year, police raids in Quebec City uncovered a massive cache, the largest ever, in a Canadian terrorism case, including 16 explosive devices, 83 firearms, and 11,000 rounds of ammunition and military equipment like night vision goggles. We have a couple of other images. So this is an image showing some of the equipment that was confiscated. I'm not sure why they're showing ballpoint pens. I guess fingerprints. I'm not sure why they're showing that kind of stuff, but vests and guns, weapons. And then, of course, images that they say shows them training. RCMP have emphasized the seriousness of this plot, stating the group's actions showed clear intent to use violence. One suspect allegedly ran an Instagram account to recruit members, sharing images of their training. The Canadian Armed Forces are cooperating fully, but questions linger about extremism within their ranks. A lot of people on social media tonight calling for extremism to be purged from the Canadian military in the wake of this. The four men did appear in court today for an arraignment in Quebec City. Further hearings set for July 14th. None of the allegations have been tested in court. Experts are warning that this case highlights a growing threat of online radicalization and anti-government militias in Canada. Hopefully, it's a bit of a wake-up call for some people out there, because things obviously did not go very well for these guys, or may not go very well for them. Again, the largest weapons confiscation of its kind to date in Canadian history related to this case. Not entirely clear why it has taken so long for police to lay charges after conducting those raids way back in January of 2024. However, it does appear that there was some sort of an ongoing intelligence gathering operation that took place even after the confiscation or confiscations back in January of 24. So more will come out in court, but right now, very little being released in terms of possible motivations or connections. I was not able to find much online, so authorities have had ample time to go in and scrub the internet, social media pages of whatever content might have been up there or was up there. And there isn't really much circulating even on social media with regard to information on those charged and what their connections might be and what groups they might be connected to. So we're monitoring this. We'll continue to follow it. This is a significant case and does highlight the very weird times that we are in right now. Now, turning back to politics specifically, not that that isn't political, it certainly is in its own right, but back to sort of mainstream politics, if you can call it that, involving Donald Trump. Uh, my mainstream, I don't know. I guess it is now. He is in the White House. But Trump announced today you guessed it, because I told you earlier, new tariffs targeting Canadian imports, escalating trade tensions with America's closest trading partner and probably closest ally. It's a whole lot easier, isn't it, to pick a fight with a friend who's a little bit littler than you than it is to pick a fight with an adversary who's, closer to your own size. Might as well go pick on Canada again. And that's what he's doing tonight. In this statement from the White House, Trump revealed plans to impose a 50% tariff on all copper imported into the United States now. Every day it's something new. This move could hit Canada hard as it supplies 52% of U.S. copper imports, valued at $4.8 billion per annum or per year. President Trump cited national security concerns again, pointing to copper's critical role in infrastructure, electric vehicles, and renewable energy. Yeah, so let's make all the copper coming from Canada, which is a steady, reliable supply, always has been. Let's put a 50% tariff on it to increase the price of all the copper coming into America because it's a national security issue. So let's make it harder and more expensive to get our hands on copper. Right, that makes sense. So the tariff follows a Section 232 investigation launched by the Commerce Department in February. Though no specific timeline for implementation has been confirmed, Trump also threatened, get this, a staggering 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals. Let's make medicine more expensive again, signaling a potential blow to Canada. This is a major supplier, of course, Canada, of generic drugs to the U.S. Trump indicated a transition period of up to a year and a half to allow drug makers to adjust, but emphasized the goal of boosting domestic production. And this follows an ongoing Commerce Department probe into pharmaceutical imports, also under national security grounds. Canadian officials and industry leaders are sounding alarms over all this. Pierre Gratton, president of the Mining Association of Canada, is warning that the copper tariffs, he says, could harm U.S. manufacturers who rely on Canadian refined copper, potentially benefiting Chinese refiners instead. It is interesting, isn't it? Sometimes you have to sit back and wonder whose side Trump is really on, who he really wants to be his friend. He claims he's opposed to China, really concerned about China, but then he punches Canada in the face, and that helps China. That's why I said before, in another program, Trump keeps showing his pro-China policies. Meanwhile, here in Canada, the government of Mark Carney is in intense trade talks with the U.S. They're ongoing, and we're trying to get to a resolution by July 21st. But every time you turn around, Trump keeps coming back and kicking Canada in the you-know-whats. Economists caution that these tariffs could raise costs for American consumers, with copper prices already spiking over 10% today before easing slightly. And the pharmaceutical tariffs, if they're enacted, they may drive up drug prices on the U.S. side, adding pressure to U.S. households already grappling with inflation concerns. I am not sure at this point how all of this might affect drug prices on the Canadian side. Any way you slice it, I think this is likely to be kind of bad. I know that one of the things that has precipitated this is there were, because pharmaceutical prices have been so high on the U.S. side and they're much lower on the Canadian side, there have been efforts being made, arrangements being made in some cases to have Canadian-sourced pharmaceuticals shipped down to the U.S. And I think that was beginning because Americans were cluing in that they could actually get these pharmaceuticals cheaper on the Canadian side. Not necessarily because they're made here, but in some cases they are, but not in all cases. It's really more just about taxation policies and tariff policies that and pricing structures and policies from the pharmaceutical companies themselves. So we can get into that another night. We've discussed it actually in the past, or I have in the on this program, probably about a year and a half ago. I remember talking about it and the pricing, the lower pricing in some countries actually isn't as detrimental to the US as you might think at first glance. The White House insists these measures will strengthen the US economy, but critics are arguing they risk further straining relations with us up here in Canada and disrupting North American supply chains. This is not a smooth ride, folks. Okay, and we're going to continue on this roller coaster for, well, at least for the next couple of weeks as we try to get to a July 21st resolution on all this. But Trump keeps coming back and smashing, punching Canada in the face, and at the same time, he's also punching U.S. consumers in the face while sitting around a table claiming that the economy is doing great and all the money that they're collecting, and they are collecting billions and billions of dollars because of these tariffs, as though that's a really great thing. But the reality is, it is a tax on American consumers, and it is resulting to some degree in inflation, although Trump is disputing that. But we all know how he is with numbers, don't we? Well, a lot of things just aren't holding water with Trump and his supporters these days because of the Epstein scandal. Yeah, it is turned into a scandal. It's a story that's gripping the nations, actually, because supporters of Donald Trump's Make America Great Again movement, or MAGA, as you know, are in an uproar today following this Department of Justice and FBI memo we showed you last night stating that no Epstein client list exists. It's just not there. They don't have it. And now we're getting all these theories. Are they conspiracies, though? Or is this just an extension of a cover up on a cover up on a cover up and broken promises from Donald Trump? It's really hard to tell, isn't it? Who the heck knows? Well, we have the meltdown just escalating. Here's just here's a bit of a setup for you. This is a compilation from CNN, the kind of show before, after, summing up the whole thing. This kind of shows you where the emotions are tonight.
Disbelief, anger, and even demands for Attorney General Pam Bondi's firing spreading throughout the MAGA universe after the Department of Justice issued an unsigned memo that stated what has been widely believed for years, that convicted child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was not murdered and did not keep a list of high-profile clients.
This is supposed to be about the most transparent administration ever.
What on earth is going on? Was Pam Bondi set up by deep state FBI career officials? Is she stupid? Is she so click thirsty that she got out over her skis trying to make news, being a Fox News star?
Pam Bondi, all of it. All those videos are saying, yeah, she's seen the videos. It's all coming out. And then now it doesn't exist. I mean, what? What?
With this memo, the Trump Justice Department has undermined and contradicted the speculation and conspiracy theories that have run rampant for years inside the MAGA orbit about smoking guns and influential figures that were pushed by the very officials who are now running the DOJ and the FBI.
The Jeffrey Epstein case, you do not know all the details of this thing, I promise. There are a lot of really obviously powerful people. This part you know, but the specific names we may not.
There were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable.
What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information.
Pam Bondi is facing most of the blowback after drumming up speculation and promising the public the release of more documents for months.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
But her department now says that that list that she said was sitting on her desk for review doesn't exist. Asked about the contradiction today at the White House, the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said that the attorney general was talking just generally about paperwork.
So what happened to the Epstein client list that the attorney general said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the attorney general said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the attorney general was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that.
Tonight, some of the same right-wing influencers who were invited to the White House back in February, you'll remember this moment, with the promise of new information, only to be given a lot of stuff that was already publicly known, are now calling for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fired.
This seems like unforgivable behavior. How could she give us those phase 1 binders that contained nothing while bragging about the cover sheet that she made, the most transparent administration in history, and tell us that the SDNY had the real goods? The binder was just proof of a deep state cover-up. That was the real story, she told us, only to now say, sorry, there's nothing. If I'm President Trump, I wouldn't tolerate it. She's a liability to him. She's not worth it.
Another ally of the president's, Laura Loomer, suggested that Bondi should, quote, resign for lying to the American people. And Elon Musk, who claimed then deleted that the president himself was included in the so-called Epstein files, wrote, it's no one has been arrested o'clock again. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein himself was arrested, but this comes as comment like this from the FBI Director Kash Patel, where he once vowed that there would be no cover-ups, no missing documents, and no stone left unturned. The Justice Department now says they don't plan to release any new documents on the Epstein matter. Top officials are now trying to quell a conspiracy that they once perpetuated.
Yeah, so the meltdown continues. Saw this coming a mile away. But don't worry, RFK Jr. is going to put an end to chemtrails. He promised to do that. I don't know what's taking him so long, but he's going to end chemtrails too. So don't worry, that'll just make up for everything. Now, that being said, one of the biggest parts of this whole meltdown is centered around, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is. Here's the security camera footage from the prison where Epstein was being held. It is said to have killed himself. Yesterday, we told you, I read this from the release itself, saying that this is raw footage. Now, raw footage means unedited footage. So I said this is unedited footage. It appears to be unedited. This is released as unedited. But here's the thing. Now that this footage is out, what we have found out since its release, and this was actually spoken about on social media channels yesterday, last night, people, after inspecting it closely, realized that there is about 60 seconds missing in this video clip. And it goes on for, I believe it's about 10 hours, this particular clip. Or maybe even like I think it's in particular is a 10-hour clip. Now, of course, that instantly raises eyebrows and starts setting off alarm bells for people and fueling conspiracy theories. People saying, where's the missing footage? you say that this is unedited, and there is an enhanced version. But the point is, there's 60 seconds where I guess just about anything could have happened. But Pam Bondi came out and said that they've spoken with the people at the prison who run the facility, and every single day they rerun that video to record over again. And as the system is reset, there's always at the same time a 60-second gap. And that is their explanation. Are you buying it? Am I buying it? I don't know. I think at this point it's hard to know what the heck to believe. Because we were promised that pretty much on day one, all these files were going to be released on JFK, the RFK assassination, Martin Luther King, and the Epstein files. And here in this this meeting, here's Trump and Bondi together. Trump said, responding to a question about this thing. Are you still actually talking about Epstein? He can't believe it. What do you mean you can't believe it, Donald? This is one of the main issues that helped propel you back into the White House.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Well, still a lot of people not buying it. Let me just see if I've got the yeah, okay, so here's, maybe I can find the Hannity clip first. Here it is. Okay, here's Trump saying, are you still talking about Epstein? This is the other half of that exchange between the media, Bondi, and Trump. I don't know how he's going to win on this one.
U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
Yeah, sure. If I could,
could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. Yeah. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video.
Okay, we already heard that. I wanted you to hear Trump say that because I think that's probably something that in some way will come back to haunt him in the future. The question is, you know, is he part of some sort of a cover-up, a scandal? Alex Jones seems to think so. And he's a big Trump supporter. He's still out there trying to defend Trump in the wake of all this. But look, man, this is a promise not kept, essentially, because we were assured, they said that there was a smoking gun there, that they had the goods were there, a truckload of evidence sitting on her desk. And yet what do we have? A great big giant nothing burger, or so they say. Let's just rewind, shall we, to this interview. Where Bondi was telling Sean Hannity, in the before time, before the release of all this, before they were back in power. I don't know what the exact date is. Let's just check the date on this one. March 3rd. So, yeah, they're getting ready. She says she's got the documents, but in this interview, she's telling a whole different story than the story we're getting now.
Handed over from the FBI bureau in New York. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, joins us now live on site. It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Are you drowning yet? How many weeks in?
Just a few.
Just a few.
Right.
Let me start with the Epstein case, because there was an expectation that this was going to be bigger. You had the same expectation.
We all did. And the FBI handed over a couple hundred pages of documents. But, Sean, I gave them a deadline of Friday at 8 a.m. to get us everything. And a source had told me where the documents were being kept, Southern District of New York, shock. So we got them all by, hopefully all of them, Friday at 8 a.m., thousands of pages of documents. I have the FBI going through them, and Cash is also, now that we have Cash here, it's a game changer, of course, and Cash is going to, Director Patel, is going to get us a detailed report as to why the FBI withheld all of those documents.
Okay, I want to be clear, because I think people got frustrated because they were expecting more. You were expecting more, and you didn't find out less than 24 hours before the release. You got a whistleblower that confirmed that there were way more documents that they were supposed to turn over, and then you found out just before that.
Well, sure. And you're looking at these documents going, these aren't all the Epstein files. There were flight logs, there were names and victims' names. And we're going, where's the rest of the stuff? And that's what the FBI had turned over to us. And so a source said, whoa, all this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York. Yep. So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Cash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. And, we're going to go through it as fast as we can, but go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims of Epstein, because there are a lot of victims.
Well, you had identified in phase one over 254. Okay. Now, is that the only thing that would be redacted? Will everything else be made public that you get in your possession?
Yeah, the FBI hasn't had, obviously, they haven't looked at the thousands of pages of documents that they've just received Friday. Yeah. But Cash has a team going through them, and it's always about protecting the victim. But you know what? We believe in transparency, and America has the right to know. The Biden administration sat on these documents. No one did anything with them. And why were they sitting in the Southern District of New York? I want a full report on that. Sadly, these people don't believe in transparency, but I think more, unfortunately, I think a lot of them don't believe in honesty. And it's a new day, it's a new administration, and everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
And that goes the same with the JFK files,
JFK,
RFK files,
Martin
MLK?
Luther King. Yep, absolutely.
What are the things that, and maybe some people don't understand the need to redact. In the case of a victim, that should be pretty obvious to people. What are the other things that maybe you'd have to redact?
Well,
national security?
No, of course, national security, some grand jury information, which is always going to be confidential. But we'll see. Let's look through them as fast as we can, get it out to the American people, because the American people have a right to know, not only on that, but on Kennedy, on Martin Luther King, on all of these cases that the Biden administration has just sat on for all these years. So yeah, it's really. It's not sad. It's infuriating that these people thought that they could sit on this information, but they can't. It's a new day, and we believe in transparency, and it's going to come out. And when we redact things, Sean, what we're going to do is not just pull pages out like they used to do. If something's redacted, you will know the line, and you will know why it's redacted, like a victim's name, identifying information of a victim.
Let's talk a little bit about the DOJ prior to your arrival. I believe it was weaponized. How do we prevent that from ever happening again? I believe that once the FBI was the world's premier law enforcement agency, and that was weaponized and politicized. I believe the same with our intel community. How do we restore these institutions to their former greatness?
Well, first and foremost, we got rid of the Jack Smith team. Gone. Yeah. Those people are gone. We're still trying to find out. There are a lot of people in the FBI and also in the Department of Justice who despise Donald Trump, despise us, don't want to be there. We will find them because you have to believe in transparency. You have to believe in honesty. You have to do the right thing. And right now, we're going to root them out. We will find them, and they will no longer be employed. But again, we're starting at every level of the Justice Department, Sean, and getting rid of the worst of the worst. But there are a lot more people that shouldn't be there. But there are a lot of good people who are out there now risking their lives every day making these cases. You know, today we made a huge case involving a Guatemalan, an illegal from Guatemala, one of the largest human trafficking rings in the country. 20,000 people being smuggled into this country from Guatemala. That arrest was made in California. Last week, an illegal was arrested in New York for ISIS, funding ISIS. It's constant. We are going to get out there. We're going to arrest the bad people, take them off the streets, and restore the Justice Department to what it was made to do, fight violent crime.
Were you or are you up to this point? I know it's very early in your tenure.
A few weeks.
Are you at all shocked at how things were running before you got there?
Shocked. Yeah.
Shocked.
Never thought. Cash and I, Patel, talk about this all the time. You know, we knew it was bad. We never knew how bad. And especially work on the criminal side and on the people who are in there. Well, you've heard the story, of course. I went up, I was visiting the floors. I walk up to the 7th floor of the National Security, and I couldn't get in there because it's a skiff. Well, that's how it was secure. Yeah. But my detail managed to get me in there. They still had a picture of Joe Biden on the wall and Kamala Harris. That's how bad it was. So I personally took those off the wall. But that's the tip of the iceberg.
Triggered.
What about when you talk about people in the DOJ that have an awful lot of power, and maybe what they did to Donald Trump is unprecedented. Evaluation of Mar-a-Lago, the double standard with the rate of Mar-a-Lago, the FISA abuse, Russia lie, a dirty misinformation dossier signed 3 times by a former FBI head, in that case, James Comey. Are these all on the table to get to the bottom of over time?
Everything's on the table, Sean. We're going to look at everything. And as I said, the Jack Smith team, gone. That was low-hanging fruit, really. Right. Get rid of them. Get rid of the people that raided the president's home at Mar-a-Lago.
Will we look into what they did?
Everything's being looked into. Yeah. Everything. And right now, we are hiring great lawyers. But now that we have cash in, it's made it a lot easier at the FBI. But he's dealing with what we're dealing. You know, the great men and women of DEA, ATF, the U.S. Marshals. We're all working together to fight violent crime. And it's a shame that a few people have given them such a bad name, as well as the Department of Justice.
It sounds daunting. It sounds like a massive list. It doesn't sound like you're going to be sleeping a lot in the next 4 years.
None of us will, but it's worth it. It's worth it to fight for the American people and to keep America safe.
Amen.
Keep
Pam,
America safe. And thank you, Pam Bondi, for nothing over on Steve Bannon's program. They're not happy.
Assessment of the response on the Epstein situation in the cabinet room today, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being perfection, 1 being we're not bringing our best. Where did that fit?
I will answer this not on a scale. I would say no amnesty for illegals and no amnesty for Epstein. And the fact that I even have to clarify that makes me want to put the answer at 1. Look, I don't know what's going on. I don't think we all have to pretend like we know what's going on all the time, but I just know this audience elected President Trump to release the truth about a host of things. And I thought that the Epstein files were going to be a day one thing that's pretty easy compared to the USAID nest of vipers you have going on there, everything that's going on at the Pentagon. I would think the Epstein list would be pretty simple. But I guess when it's involved, probably likely with foreign intelligence operations that we're actively arming, perhaps it gets a little trickier. But I think we need to have a serious come to Jesus moment within the MAGA movement about what's going on.
Amen. Dave Walsh is going to.
Okay. All is not well in the MAGA camp. Cracks forming. Yeah. John Rimby out in Alberta. Did we not have a conversation about this? Did we not talk about this? Did we not agree that this dysfunctional alliance or union, this unity that we're seeing in the Trump movement, bringing sort of people from the RFK Jr., libertarian, socialist kind of Democrat camp over to join forces with the populist MAGA movement was going to be dysfunctional? Didn't we talk about that? Didn't we predict that things would start to blow apart in short order? And is that not indeed what we are seeing? Yes, I think so. Now with the administration unable to deliver, or maybe unwilling to deliver on a lot of these promises that were made, promises now not kept. Embarrassing or what? Problematic, to be sure, for Trump. And we ran those clips of Alex Jones yesterday saying he wanted to throw up in his own mouth because he's sick to his stomach seeing that Trump is becoming part of this whole thing. Let's take a little break. I'm going to get some more clips lined up as our coverage of today's top news stories continues.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. Enough of Epstein. It's 2 days in a row of this stuff. It's distasteful. It has become, in a way, a form of entertainment, I would say, for America and even the world. Frankly, I hate even talking about it, but it is what it is, as they say. So back to other news. What shall we tackle here next? I have quite a number of things, but I guess we should really address the Texas floods again because of the devastation there, the devastation that has ripped through central Texas. The flooding there on the 4th of July weekend. The death toll has now climbed to at least 111, with Kerr County bearing the brunt of the tragedy, reporting 87 deaths, including 30 children. Governor Greg Abbott confirmed today that 161 people remain missing in Kerr County alone, with an additional dozen unaccounted for across other counties. We have Abbott here in a news conference today. Here we go.
Second part of the question needs to be addressed is an investigation. We know a special session's coming in about 10 days. That's where, I would say, where it begins. Candidly, those investigations will begin by both the House and Senate before we go into session. So probably beginning later this week or the early part of next week, there'll be committees formed that are already kind of working on ideas about ways to address this. Second part of the question needs to be addressed. You ask, I'm going to use your words, who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. And that is, Texas, every square inch of our state, cares about football. You could be in Hunt, Texas, Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community, they care about football. High school, Friday night lights, college football, or pro. And know this. Every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, that we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions. In fact, I want to read you something that I received last night. That's worth emphasizing to put this in context. Tragedy has come. That part is done. What we do now, who we are now, that's what the story is still being written. Let it be one of grace, of grit, of fierce love in the face of grief. Let it be the kind of story that proves that the hill country may flood, but it does not fail. Say what you will about Texas, but when the rivers rise, so do we. Not with blame, not with bitterness, but with boots on the ground, arms around strangers, and hearts wide open. That's the Texas I know, and that's the America that I believe in. What this person wrote is what I know is true for all Texans and what we will achieve every single day.
All right. A lot of talk about who is to blame, a lot of speculation, a lot of information coming out, isn't in fact. A lot of fingers being pointed all around. Some people looking very closely at this Camp Mystic, flash floods, where a lot of those, it was like an all-girls camp. I'm going to get back to that in a moment. Yeah, this flood, 15 inches of rain in just hours, turned the Guadalupe River into a deadly torrent. We showed you the video, rising 26 feet in 45 minutes. And then there's this Camp Mystic, this Christian girls summer camp in Kerr County. It was hit the hardest. 27 campers and counselors confirmed dead, 5 girls. 27 campers from this camp, this all-girls camp. And counselors confirmed dead. 5 girls and 1 counselor still missing. Among the victims, a 19-year-old counselor, Chloe Childress, and camp director Dick Eastland, who died there as well, trying to save campers. But some people pointing their finger at the camp itself and the people operating it. Some reports questioning whether they had radios there, or that I guess they had a no cell phone policy in place. And some people critical saying that this camp didn't have radios out there either to intercept warnings on weather alerts and other possible emergencies. I can't speak to it myself. I don't know. I'm just conveying the information, but some really, really harsh criticisms being directed at this place. And I think there are a variety of reasons why. At least one person, I don't even want to repeat what the lady said, that this person said about this camp, but it got her into trouble and politically. I'll let you go searching for it if you want, because I don't want to say it on the program until I dig into it more and really understand. Let's just say this is a camp that, well, basically the well-heeled, the people people of upper mobility, shall we say, can afford to send their kids to. Let's take a look at this video. We'll be right back.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Yeah. Questions still mounting over the disaster response. Local officials there in Texas facing scrutiny for the lack of a flood warning system. In Kerr County, previously rejected as too costly. The National Weather Service issued alerts hours before the floods, but some Texas officials claim forecasts underestimated the rainfall. The White House has pushed back, calling such criticisms disgusting lies, insisting warnings were timely. Trump administration under fire, some claiming cuts made under Doge are to blame because it disrupted the information chain in some cases. So that even though some of these warnings are issued, there are allegations that the information wasn't getting through to the places where, in some cases, it was needed most. And Greg Abbott vowing that they won't stop until every victim, every missing person is accounted for. The floods have been described as a 100-year catastrophe and have caused an estimated $18 to $22 billion in damage, ranking among the deadliest U.S. flooding events since 1925. And then some people with conspiracy theories spinning up around this, saying that the floods were caused by this, that, or the other thing. In reality, if you go back and you check your history, as I have, over the past, well, couple of centuries, you'll find that that area of the United States is prone to flooding. In fact, here, I can show you a thread outlining some of the history surrounding flooding in that area. Here, look at this. This guy's got some of this information right here. Brief history of flooding, Guadalupe River Basin, Kerr County. Early 1800s, early flooding records. The 1800s to the early 1900s. Flooding along the Guadalupe has been documented since European settlement began in the mid-1800s. Early settlers quickly realized the river could swell dramatically after heavy rains upstream. Historical accounts describe flash floods sweeping through ranch lands and primitive crossings washing out homesteads and isolating communities. Then into the 1920s, the San Antonio and Central Texas flood, one of the deadliest flooding events affecting the wider region, came in September of 1921. In the 1930s and the 1950s, camps along the river. By the early 20th century, summer camps began to spring up along the clear waters of the Guadalupe, taking advantage of its scenic banks and cold springs. Camp Mystic, established in the 1920s near Hunt, became one of the most well-known girls' camps in the region. However, the same river that drew campers with its swimming holes and canoes also posed a recurring threat. Seasonal floods regularly tested the resilience of these riverside camps. Generations of campers and staff remember sudden storms that forced late-night evacuations or temporary closures. In 1978, the Kerr County flood. In August of that year, intense rainfall led to severe flooding in Kerrville and surrounding areas. October 1998, the Central Texas floods. Yeah. One of the worst modern floods occurred in October of 98 when days of torrential rain fell across the hill country. The Guadalupe River rose more than 30 feet in some places, 26 feet in this particular case. Parts of Kerr County, including Hunt and river camps, were inundated. So in 1998, even the river rose even higher, another 4 feet higher than it rose this time. Many hill country camps, including Mystic, sustained damage that took months to repair. 2002, not that long ago, another major event in July of that year, widespread flooding returned as storms dumped massive rainfall across the hill country. The Guadalupe and other rivers, such as the Medina and Llano, rose rapidly, flooding low-lying campgrounds, river crossings, and cabins. And once again, camps along the Guadalupe temporarily closed, and extensive cleanup followed. And then in 2015, Memorial Day floods. While the 2015 catastrophic Memorial Day floods focused national attention on the Blanco River and Wimberley, the Guadalupe Basin also experienced high water. This was just 10 years ago, with flash flooding impacting tributaries across Kerr County and Central Texas. And you can see the entire region here on this map. That whole area prone to flooding. So you would think that they would have systems in place, that they would have warning systems in place, that they would have emergency procedures established. That camp had been there since the 1920s. And so criticism being leveled, and justified, we shall find out. Over time, I suppose. Trump saying this is a once in a century kind of event. Yeah, well, a century ago and even earlier than that. No, actually, we've had floods back there, of similar consequence and scope, even back in the 90s, the 70s, the 80s. Maybe once in a decade event of this magnitude. But they know it can't happen because it has happened before, and it will happen again. And so I'm sorry, but some of the people sending me these distasteful links overnight, and you know who you are, especially the ones about the chemtrails and the reasons for the flooding and the conspiracies. Yeah, we're not going to get into that here because you can see the history and you can see what really happens there. This other story here, this is dramatic footage. This is the Houthis. Let me get my notes up on this. The Houthis attacked this ship, and it's a developing story from the Red Sea. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels released this video today claiming to show the sinking of the Liberian-flagged bulk carrier Magic Seas following their attack on July 6th. So this footage has been shared widely on social media. It depicts Houthi militants boarding the vessel, firing rockets and detonating explosives, leading to the ship's submersion. This shows us how they did it. I will have to say, viewer discretion advised. This does look like something out of an action movie, but this appears to be very real, and it is coming from multiple sources that I would say are very credible. I don't think this is staged. I do believe this to be real. These days, you can never be 100% sure. Am I even real? I think so. I think this is real. I don't think this is staged. This is from, as I say, the 6th of July, 2 days ago. We'll just roll this back here to the beginning. And this illustrates, it shows us that the tensions in the Middle East are still not complete, even though Trump bombed Iran, saying he obliterated their nuclear program, even though Netanyahu yesterday, I guess, announced that he has formally nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, which Trump wants in the worst way. The conflict still continues. The Houthis are a proxy of Iran, and they are still attacking ships going through that part of the Red Sea. It's a vital shipping route, and they're going after anything tied to Israel. So this is not over. It's probably never going to end, the conflict over there. Let's take a look at this video. Again, viewer discretion advised, and just keep in mind the source. So this is a slanted, biased video being shown to you, produced from the perspective of the Houthis.
Mayday, mayday! This is motor vessel Magic 6, Delta 5, Golf Papa 6. The vessel needs immediately assistance. Mayday, mayday, mayday! What type of assistance you need? Rescue, rescue! The vessel will be abandoned. I need rescue for my crew. The vessel was hit by Houthis and will be sunk.
on board, planted explosives, detonated them, and then watch what happens. And the dramatic music makes it more dramatic. Turns it into a cinematic affair. You ever feel like you're watching a movie? It's because you are. Look at what they did here. Look at the efforts the effort they put into producing this video. Because the information war is, in some respects, just as important, or maybe even more important than the kinetic war itself. Sending a message. And they want us to see that. I showed it to you. It is propaganda, but it is also real, and it is news. But I frame it for you, I think, in an accurate way so that you understand the context, so that you don't just take it at face value. That stuff in itself is designed to radicalize us. And it does. Everything you see, everything you absorb, every piece of information in one way or another affects your perception, your opinion on everything. And then we're seeing that the war in Ukraine continues. Just days ago, we hear that the Trump administration is suspending shipments of military aid to Ukraine. Why? Because they have a report that says they're running low on stockpiles of munitions for the U.S. And then Trump comes along and has reversed that now and says they will be sending more aid to Ukraine because after Trump's last phone call with Putin, Russia just resumed with more strikes against Ukraine. The biggest strikes we've seen to date, with hundreds and hundreds, I think 500 drones in just one night launched against Kyiv, along with, I think, about a half a dozen missiles. And also accusations from the Dutch government that claims to have evidence, conclusive evidence, that they've taken to the UN saying that Russia has used chemical weapons that have been banned in this conflict hundreds of times, including in this latest series of attacks against Ukraine. These escalating attacks, chloropicrin, a chemical that was used actually during World War I, banned. And Trump, apparently, not entirely aware of some of this stuff. And even though he's the president of the United States.
The Ukrainians have asked the international court to go after Russia for using toxic chemicals in the fight. Germany and Germany and the Netherlands have had intelligence saying that. What does U.S. intelligence believe, and what do you believe about the use of chemical weapons? And would you agree that that's the case in court?
You see there?
Want us, John, maybe to discuss it if you'd like, John?
It's like Trump didn't. It seems like he's not aware. This reporter's asking him about these reports of chemical weapons being used. And what's he do? He leans over to Hegseth and he whispers to him, I believe, something to the effect of, do you know anything about this? And you want to have a John comment on this? Because he's just not getting it. Not the most informed president when it comes to foreign affairs and wars.
Intelligence believe, and what do you believe about the use of chemical weapons? And would you agree that that's the case in court?
They're whispering.
Want us, John, maybe to discuss it if you'd like, John?
Well, Mr. President, obviously chemical weapons, if it's documented and its use, it's illegal. It's against all international laws of armed conflict and treaties. And obviously I can't share in this room with this audience the intelligence that I can share with you privately, but obviously you're not going to stand or allow for any violations of international law by anyone.
That's right. Thank you.
The Ukrainians have asked the international court to go go after Russia for using toxic chemicals in the fight. Germany and
time.
Dutch Germany and the Netherlands have had intelligence saying that. What does U.S. intelligence believe?
Look at him lean in.
believe about the use of chemical weapons? And would you
Do
agree
you
that
know about
that's
this?
the case
He says, do you know about this
What
one?
is-
That's what he says. Do you know about this one? Shouldn't you know? Don't you read your briefs? Don't you get these intelligence reports? He should know. He should know. And he doesn't know. And it's important. It's vital. Lives are on the line and a lot of money because you're sending or not sending this aid. And he doesn't know. Seems to just fly by the seat of his pants. And then speaking of the weapon shipments, Trump, he doesn't even seem to honestly have a handle on who the heck is. He doesn't seem to know who's controlling things. I'm not even sure it's him, because the suspension of the arms shipments, which was announced just days ago, he's asked about it here, and listen to the response. This is very telling. You tell me, is this guy actually in charge?
President, we will send more weapons to Ukraine, as you said last night. Last week, the Pentagon paused some shipments of weapons to Ukraine. Did you approve of that pause?
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not, he's not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. What did you tell me?
I think that's a question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He doesn't know. Why don't you tell me? I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Who ordered the pause? We know that this is the second time weapon shipments have been paused. The first time, Hegseth apparently acted unilaterally on his own without Trump's knowledge, and then Trump reversed it. And now again, we see this study that has come out. If he'd read the study, he would know who it was, because it was somebody in Hegseth's, under Hegseth, essentially, that appears to have done this. But Trump should know. He's the commander in chief. It's pretty important stuff, wouldn't you think? And now here we go again, where it's being reversed again, and Trump is saying he's going to send more defensive weapons, primarily to Ukraine. That would be comprised mainly, I think, of these Patriot missiles for air defense, because Ukraine, under massive bombardment, massive drone and missile attacks, the biggest attacks of their type since the beginning of the conflict. And we told you with reports here about a week and a half ago now, that we could see drone strikes, swarms of as many as 1,000 per night, beginning very shortly. And it seems like we are actually beginning to see that. And Trump here in this clip really unloading on Putin. I don't know if this is really signaling an end to the bromance between the two, or if it's just another milestone on a rocky roller coastery ride of all this. I don't know. Some speculating that Trump is kind of getting near the end of his rope of patience, and is really getting ready to take a different approach with his relationship with Putin, because it's becoming clear, I think, even to Trump, that Putin ain't gonna stop. And after multiple attempts to bring this thing to a resolution that Trump promised would come within 24 hours of taking office, 6 months later, we're seeing that everything is still continuing. And I could see the writing on the wall a long time ago. I don't know about you, but yeah, this is not going to end if it's just left up to Putin and Trump taking the same approach. So it looks like maybe things are changing. That Trump's attitude is changing. And a lot of analysts saying Trump's been played all along. Here he is talking about the man in the Kremlin.
But that was a war that should have never happened, and a lot of people are dying, and it should end. And I don't know, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Do you want to sanction him? Lindsey Graham has a sanctions bill on Russia. Do you want him to move ahead with that?
Yeah, the Senate is passed a very, very tough sanctions bill. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
And you sign that?
It's an optional bill. It's totally at my option. They passed it totally at my option, and to terminate totally at my option. And I'm looking at it very strongly.
Yeah, a lot of BS being thrown at everybody by Putin. That's what Trump is saying now, because he's being slapped upside the head with some reality. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to pivot back now and talk just a little bit about these strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities, because there are new reports out analyzing what happened there, giving us a clearer assessment. And so with the latest on these on this Operation Rising Lion, started June 12th, targeting Iran's nuclear facilities, followed by U.S. strikes codenamed Midnight Hammer. And there's this new report out from, I need to make sure that I get the correct document up, and I'll show it to you here. Okay, let's get it up on the screen. From the Institute for Science and International Security. I'll put it up here for you. All right, so this is just not, this isn't coming from just some, live streamer, clickbaity social media influencer looking to make a couple of dimes off a YouTube ad campaign. Post-attack assessment of the first 12 days of Israeli and U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Okay. So I have a synopsis here. Yeah. So this report details extensive damage to key sites, including Natanz, Esfahan, and Fordo. At Natanz, Iran's main uranium, according to this report, Iran's main uranium enrichment hub, satellite imagery shows the above-ground power supply and pilot plant obliterated, though underground facilities may still be intact. In Esfahan, a critical uranium conversion site, 3 Israeli and U.S. attacks left 4 buildings heavily damaged, including the enriched uranium metal plant. At Fordo, deep underground, U.S. bunker buster bombs and Israeli strikes sealed tunnel entrances, though their full impact remains unclear. The strikes also disrupted Iran's centrifuge program, with the Karaj manufacturing site previously hit in 2021, now relocated to Esfahan and bombed again. The loss of nuclear scientists linked to Iran's weapons research further hampers Tehran's capabilities. A ceasefire brokered by Trump, June 23rd, holds for now, offering a chance for negotiations, but this report that you're seeing on the screen warns that any violations could trigger swift Israeli or U.S. retaliation. And analysts are saying Iran's nuclear ambitions are set back significantly, but the underground nature of some facilities leaves questions about the long-term impact. Now, I'm going to add my own 2 cents worth in here and say that we are in a very dangerous situation moving ahead because Iran now, as a result of all of this, is refusing to let the International Atomic Energy Agency in for inspections. So that, combined with the lack of really a deal with the US and Israel and the world to contain the development of nuclear weapons on the Iranian side, combined with the apparent probable still existence of uranium enriched to about 60%, plus this new development where the IAEA is not being allowed to inspect facilities there anymore, we have a very dangerous situation because we are now blind. Aside from spying, satellite imagery, spies providing information to Western intelligence and Israeli intelligence, the world. So we don't really know for sure. Or maybe they do. Maybe the intelligence is very good, but the IAEA not being allowed in. So I would say we're in a very, very dangerous situation because lack of knowledge is in itself very dangerous when it comes to something like this. Because now you just have to trust. You can't verify. Yeah. So all that. And I think this whole situation is actually more dangerous than it was before the bombs were dropped. And while a lot of people are sitting there saying Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, we have a ceasefire, but I don't know if we have a lasting peace. And we do have a very unstable, unsure, uncertain future ahead of us in the Middle East. So fasten your seatbelts. The roller coaster ride continues. I shall return.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're back. Yeah. So this is not in the true conspiracies file. It's not a conspiracy. This appears to be also very real. Report tonight that AI, or maybe I shouldn't say AI, but Google's quantum computer may have just tapped the multiverse. That's the headline that's out there. In fact, here, I'll show you the social media thread on this. I don't know if this is a good thing, a bad thing, a scary thing, but it seems to be a real thing. This is Mario Noffel's feed tonight with this story. Google's new quantum beast Willow solved a mind-bending problem in under 5 minutes. Supercomputers would have literally needed 10 septillion years. That's longer than the entire universe has existed. How? Some experts say Willow didn't just compute fast, it computed across parallel realities, as in, yes, the multiverse. Like it spread the work across alternate timelines and worked with itself in parallel realities? Okay, if you say so. Google's own quantum chief said this is the first real tech to treat the multiverse as a serious part of reality.
So
we'll run the video. Let's see.
turns out we might actually be living in a multiverse. Google just unveiled a quantum computer called Willow, and it's so powerful, it did a calculation in under 5 minutes that would have taken the world's best supercomputers 10 septillion years. That's longer than the entire lifetime of the universe. And the craziest part, experts think Willow pulled this off by doing the calculation across multiple universes. Yeah, I know, it sounds crazy. As in, it spread the work across alternate timelines and worked with itself in parallel realities. Google's own quantum lead said quantum computing is the first tech that seriously treats the idea that we live in a multiverse. So, I mean, are we living in a real-life Marvel movie? So it turns...
That guy just repeated everything I said. Maybe that's because he's in a parallel universe. And then he came over and I was in the future, and then he came and he repeated me. That's how he knew. That's called parroting. That's actually something that's a no-no when it comes to broadcast journalism. You're not supposed to do that, and I just did. But I hadn't really cued the whole clip there prior to that, so I apologize for the parroting. Not that it really matters that much. A very interesting story and a little bit disturbing, if true. If true. I'm not sure. Well, folks, that kind of gets us to the end of tonight's broadcast. So with that being said, let's look forward to a future of multiverse computing and, I don't know, yeah, maybe a trip to Mars with Elon Musk. Maybe Google's new Willow computer can help compute the way. Hopefully, the machines don't kill us before we get there. See you all tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. On the flip side.
He's got a plan, it's bold and grand, taking over land, sea and sand. Canada's ours, Greenland's in the mix, the Panama Canal's just another fix. But Mars, oh Mars, you pesky red sphere, your spying drones are making it clear. It's a threat to Earth, a cosmic sin, but don't worry folks, he'll make Mars great again. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. We'll impose sanctions, taxes, and fines. Martian exports know they're crossing the line. The Martians cry foul, but Trump doesn't care. He'll build a space wall floating up there. Elon's on board with rockets ablaze. The stock market's loving this Martian craze. He says, trust me folks, I know the deal. Martian gold is ours, this plan is real. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. Yeah, Mars hotels with golf resorts, intergalactic trade reports, a MAGA dome where Martians bow. We've got the best Martians, Trump says now. Fake news claims the plan's absurd, but Trump tweets back, it's the final word. Martian drones not on my watch. Space Force ready to kick it up a notch. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say can you see, he'll make Mars great again. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say, can you see, he'll make Mars great again.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.